Hi everyone, I'm doing my John Maxwell and I finally finished this book, Make Today Count, and the last chapter was on growth and asking ourselves, how have I committed to growth? What am I doing on a daily basis that will help me to grow? And how am I implementing what I learn? So for me, I guess my growth comes from helping others. I have been helping people in Zimbabwe for a long, long time, and in Africa. I used to do it through the One campaign. I continue to do it through my university, Wits University, through social media, and also getting involved where I can. And a lot of people would say, well, why are you interested in helping Africa? You don't live there anymore. But that's where I was born. I was born in Zimbabwe, and I love my country. I loved it. I didn't want to come back to Canada when I went back, but I came back and I'm here and I'm a citizen of this country. But like many people that come here, highly qualified people, I'm not working in my field. I'm not working as an executive assistant or in HR. And a lot of people now, the new immigrants that are coming in, they're not willing to retrain and to requalify and hear, oh, you don't have Canadian experience. So they're moving on. They're going to other countries. They're going to Dubai. They're going to Australia. They're finding jobs in England. There's a lot of people that I know who have found jobs in England and they've gone from Zimbabwe. So I'm hoping something like that will happen for me too, because I don't see the point in staying in a country where I'm earning minimum wage and every year things are getting harder and harder. I can't buy a home. I can't come up. I can't afford to travel. And 20 years is a long time. First, it was 10 years after I got let go from TD. I couldn't get anything except contract work, and it was in the severance agreement that there would be a period of 10 years where I could not get a permanent job at TD. Not that I did anything wrong, I didn't, but those were the terms and conditions. And then after all this harassment from Credit Suisse, it's another 10 years of them calling saying, oh, they like her, they like me, even at the church, telling everyone in the church, oh, they like me, after they accused me of defamation and sent me a cease and desist. And those are very serious charges. They're not charges I took lightly. I didn't enjoy it. I used to cry at work when they used to call. And I used to beg my employers, don't let me go. I need my job. I've got my mom. I'm a caregiver. They never kept me. They said, it's too much of a risk. We can't keep you. And sorry, we're letting you go, because I was a very good executive assistant. I worked with lawyers. I worked with the most senior people in the company, directors, senior vice presidents, CEOs. And I am still a good assistant. It's like riding a bicycle. You just have to find that opportunity. And now I've got my master's. That's a positive. That's my education I can take to a company. And you can't teach ethics. You really can't. I mean, these guys that work in banking, they know what they're doing when they take those investments and they hedge it, they bet. We call it hedging, but it's actually betting. And the stocks go up and the stocks go down. And unfortunately, the way the banks work is that if one banker starts losing confidence in the stocks, then the next, and that's how they carry on. And that's what happened with my reputation. One bank started with some nonsense and they carried on. It came into the church, it came into my school, it came into everything. So, not coincidence, but I was very surprised when Wits held a symposium against corruption. And many of these banks that accused me of all these things got caught in those Panama Papers, including Credit Suisse. So all these CEOs and all these big shots that were coming down on me, they should have been coming down on their investment bankers. because I've worked at other investment banks in England. I worked for Schroders, I worked for Nomura, and that's how I got my opportunity at TD. And it's nonsense when they say, oh, you need Canadian experience, you need Canadian experience. You don't actually. You could go into a job and they could train you on how to do it or how to learn the soft skills that you need to work in Canada, but they can't be bothered to. When I went to TD, I had 1 week of training, a handover with an executive assistant, and that's it. Everything else I applied from my knowledge and I used my skills. But because they made such a big deal of it, I retrained. I got my HR certification. I went to school. I went to school at night. I held 3 jobs sometimes, and I graduated. And they can't take that away from me. So when you talk about growth, growth is not only about learning and investing in yourself, it's also about helping others. Because now in England, the refugees, they have like security devices attached to them. They treat them like criminals. So wherever they go, they know where they are. When I was in England, they didn't have that. But I would hate to be a refugee today, because what is happening in England, they're turning them away. And I was a refugee, so I know how frightening it is when you're sitting, you're waiting for your papers, because my citizenship was taken away, my Zimbabwean citizenship. And so it's scary when you're waiting and you don't know whether the country you have applied to as a professional worker is going to take you. By the grace of God, I did get taken, but it hasn't been easy here for me. It's been very, very hard. And a lot of the South Africans that come, the Zimbabweans that come, they've got sponsors. They've got somebody that's brought them into the country and that's helping them and that's opening doors for them. When I tried to do that through my contacts at EY, I got shut down. So there's a lot of racism, there's a lot of sexism, there's a lot of things that happen that they don't talk about, and even the human trafficking. I watched a documentary about all these care workers that they bring in, and they give them a room and board. Then the employers want to sleep with them. They have all the evidence. They've made documentaries about it, but they don't charge them. They don't put them in jail. And they say, oh no, it's you. It must be in your head. But actually, they know everything. Even there was a guy on the subway that was talking to me, and he was saying they know everything. They just don't want to do it. There was a big drug case here that they just put it aside. They're not telling us the reason. There must have been some big shot involved in it, so they're not going to put them in jail. Meanwhile, the rest of us are suffering. So, and things have changed. All the guys that when they were young, like Bono, Bruce Springsteen, Sting, Bob Geldof, all the ones that did all that Live Aid and all that, they're old now. And the young people are not doing it. They're not challenging the government. They're not holding concerts. They know what's happening, but they can't be bothered. So there are big, big problems. There's food insecurity in Canada. In Africa, it's worse. Imagine if you're living in America and you're getting $600 a month for food stamps. In Africa, you don't get that because they don't have the population to pay the taxes. There's no work. So if you don't have money, you don't eat. We went through that. We had times when our cupboards were bare, where we didn't have food in the house. The water wasn't running. The electricity was cut off for 6 days, 7 days. And then when you come here, the managing directors at TD tell you, oh, you have an attitude of entitlement. No, I don't. They told me that. I said, no, I want to study and I want to stay here in the company and I want to progress. And they didn't help me. So that's how it goes. If you want to come here, you want to be prepared. You have to be prepared to work hard and to look at your own education. And if you don't want to retrain and restudy and all that, get the job first. Go try to get a job in your field first. and then get your qualifications. That's what I tell people. Because I invested a lot in my education, in my training, in getting my HR certification. And when you hold that designation, you are supposed to work in the interest of the public. So all these banks, TD and Credit Suisse and all that, I don't know what their HR were doing, because they hired people who were definitely not working in the interest of the public. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been caught with all these Panama Papers and all that. And I'm proud of FITS for holding that symposium. We have always been a university that has challenged and that has helped people to grow and to think about what's happening. FITS was the leader in South Africa. So I'm not needed here. Definitely I'm not. I read in the church once in a while, but I'm not using my skills. I'm not getting paid what I'm worth. So I'm hoping and praying that I get an opportunity in England where they look for executive assistants with master's degrees, and where I will be treated with respect, because I have not been treated with any respect in Canada. I've been treated like, oh, you poor little Indian girl. Yeah, come, we'll show you how to do it. Even on the calls. What you should have done, I tell them, I've been trained. I know what I'm doing. And they still yell at you and scream at you and use vulgar language on you and abuse you. We don't talk like that in Zimbabwe. When we're talking to each other, we treat each person with dignity and with respect. Even as a child, I've never knew anybody to swear and say, I'm sick of the shit, or talk to me like that. Never. It's here in America that they do it. So, and then if you don't do it, they say, oh, she's too sweet. That's what they say. That they have no manners. So, that's what growth is about. It's about thinking about the next generation and what's happening in the world today and how we can help to make things better for other people and ourselves. God says, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. So you have to start with yourself, care for your body, your mind, your spirit, and then you can care for others as well. So I'm hoping and praying things get better for me. I live on my overdraft. Every month I pray, God, please don't let me lose my job. God, please help me. Please don't let things get worse for me. Because I've got nobody. Once my mom is gone, it's just going to be me. My brother's in England, so I'm hoping I can go back to England. I don't want to stay here. I've done my best, and nobody has appreciated what I've done or how I've invested. Even in the one campaign, I had written to their board saying that I need some help, and things are very, very hard for me. I volunteered for a long time, and the person I contacted did take it up for me, and he did ask the board. And HR said no. So anyway, that's tough times. We all go through tough times. I've also made the decision not to use my vacation I used to take the days off and go to church, go to the Good Friday service, go to Easter, go to Christmas. And I've decided, you know what, if no one's going to help me, I'm just going to work on those days. At least I'll get a little bit of extra money. And no one must criticize me, because if they're not willing to help me and give me money for food and rent and everything else, then they can't criticize me, because God knows what I'm going through and God knows my heart. And God knows how I've struggled since I've come to Canada. Even when I bought my place, I bought it on a high-end mortgage. The ratio was very high because I didn't have enough for the down payment. Everyone refused to help me. So I did what I could. And more than that, nobody can ask anybody to do. I've done my level best in Canada, and it's obviously not the right country for me. So I'm hoping that I'll get an opportunity in England where I'll get paid well and where I'll be appreciated and respected. And I can move on, because Canada says they need immigrants, they need qualified people, But then when you come here, it's a different story. And it's not just me that's gone through it. There are doctors, there are lawyers, there are teachers. Everybody that comes here goes through it. Oh, you have to retrain, you have to get Canadian qualifications. Your qualifications are not good enough. You have to have them assessed. You do everything and you still can't get the openings and the breaks. So even in the South African community, I tried. I don't want to be working in the print rooms and doing the binding and the photocopying and lifting boxes and overseeing. I did that. I did it when I was in England. I did it here in Canada. I'm in my 50s now. It's time for the young people to do those jobs. I've done my share of that heavy lifting. I want to use my education, use my skills. I want to travel. And if there's an opportunity to work for a non-profit or to work for a company where I can travel and do some good work in Zimbabwe, why not? That's my home. I was born there. And I was so happy to see how well they organized the vaccinations. All the other countries only had 28% of their population with first vaccinations. Zimbabwe had more. They had over 50%. It's good. If you give Zimbabwe a little bit of support, we thrive. We beat everybody. We always do. So that's about growth, investing in yourself and investing in others, and hopefully leaving things a little bit better than you found them. Even the scandals in the church, they frighten me. I trained with the Jesuits. I was very frightened when that report came out about the sexual abuse by the Jesuits, because we grew up trusting our priests and nuns. We never had any of this nonsense that they do here. It's very, very frightening. Very frightening. But anyway, we had a good childhood despite all the civil war. Our police protected us. There were no problems in the schools, no shootings, no knifings, nothing like that. We were well disciplined, well raised. We had good manners. We didn't have all these problems that they have in America and Canada. You have to train for lockdowns. You have to train for shootings. You have to train for all kinds of emergencies. We didn't have any of that. Nothing. So growth is important, and people can't put down Africa forever. Africa will be the next place that they invest in, because now China is going down. So they need cheap labor. It will be the next place where they go to. That's why they came here to us for the call center work, because it's cheap labor. And we can't get jobs, so we do it. What are you going to do if you can't get anything? You rather do it and earn a decent wage rather than put yourself as a personal care worker and risk being sexually abused or mentally abused or sworn at and shouted at. You'd rather do this kind of work, even though, yes, you still get abused over the phone. It's better than being assaulted. It's the horror stories about what's happened to people, and they're making sex work legal here. They say, oh no, it's everybody's choice. No, it's not. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. People fought for years and years and years to get rid of the sex trade, and now they're bringing it back. It's rubbish. It's not right. But if the priests and the religious and the popes don't stand up to it, and they are actually doing it, then we also have to protect ourselves. So we have to be careful. We have to put our own effort in, and we have to grow. We have to realize what times we are living in and how things have changed. It's like the 60s. It's exactly like the 60s and the 70s. 70s got better at least. But all the leaders, some of them got killed. Bobby Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Elvis, they worked him like a dog till he died. So at least he stood up for what was right through his music and through having black people with him in the car on the stage. He did what was right, and I've tried to do what is right. and nobody can fault me for it. The banks can criticize me all they want, but the lawyers told me if they put it in a court, they'll throw the case out of the court. They said, don't you worry. You get a lawyer and you carry on with your life. And now I've been proven right. They are the ones, all the corruption. And the rich don't stay rich forever. If they don't look after the poor and the middle class, they will soon land up being paupers as well. History just repeats itself, but they don't learn. Growth is very important, and thinking about what we're doing for others and with others and for ourselves.